You don't need perfect makeup. You don't need a flawless selfie. You need a moment that moves him. It's because when a woman shows up with presence, with play, with that quiet kind of fire, she doesn't just get noticed, she gets remembered. Let that settle in your chest for a second, my friends, because somewhere along the way you were sold a lie. That to hold a man's attention, you had to be the most polished, the most put together, the most effortlessly cool. You were told to be less needy, more mysterious. Smile just enough, don't laugh too hard, don't show too much heart. But here's the truth. What actually makes a man come closer, what keeps him thinking about you in the middle of his day, what makes him feel proud just to have you beside him, isn't the performance, and it's the accident. It's the realness. It's the unrehearsed, beautiful human softness you've been told to shrink. So before we go deeper, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, not just for me, but for you. Because this channel, it's built from soul. I pour every piece of me into these words to remind you of every piece you forgot you had. And if you're here right now, I want your energy in this community. Your presence matters. Now stay with me. Hey ladies, imagine this. You're sitting across from him, not trying, just being. You're curled up in his hoodie, hair a little messy, not even thinking about how you look. You steal a fry from his plate without asking. You laugh too loud at something dumb. You lean your head on his chest like it's the most natural thing in the world. And he's looking at you, smiling. Because that's the moment he falls a little harder. You didn't mean to make it special. You didn't say the perfect thing, you were just you. And that, my friends, that's the secret no one told you. Because it's not about showing him the version of you that's curated and filtered. It's about the little things, the subtle things, the unplanned, effortless moments that speak louder than any well-crafted text or seductive glance ever could. You don't have to be more to be loved more. You just have to be real. And if you've ever thought, does he even notice the way I look at him when he's not watching? Does he remember that thing I did just because I care? The answer is yes, he does. Because those little things, they aren't little, not to a man who feels them. So today, we're not just listing out what guys secretly love. We're pulling back the curtain on how your smallest gestures, your quirks, your energy, make you magnetic. You're not trying to be cute. You are the moment. And if that lights something up in your chest right now, if you're feeling that quiet fire come alive, I want you to pause and type this in the comments right now. My softness is power. Say it, claim it, own it, because that phrase isn't a compliment, it's a mirror. You don't have to perform, you just have to show up fully. Hit like, subscribe, and stay with me, because what we're about to dive into, it'll change the way you see yourself. And once you see it, he won't be able to look away. Number one, when you lay your head on his chest. And the strongest connection is not built through words, and it's built through presence, and presence speaks loudest in silence. Let that one hit, my friends, because here's the truth most people won't tell you. Sometimes the moment he falls for you isn't when you're dressed to the nines, laughing at the right time, or saying something perfectly clever. It's when you're quiet, still, software. When your head rests on his chest and your heart whispers to his without a single word, because laying your head on a man's chest, it's not just a position, it's a declaration, a sacred kind of surrender. It says, I trust you to hold me, not just my body, but my energy. Now imagine this, you're both on the couch, movie playing, lights low, the world is quiet, no masks, no roles. You lean your head against his chest, your arm drapes over him without thinking, and in that moment, time slows down. You don't say a word, but your body speaks volumes. You're not performing, you're present. And that right there, that's the kind of moment a man remembers. Not because you looked like a model, but because you made him feel like a man worth holding on to. Now I know what your mind might whisper. But won't I seem needy? What if I look too vulnerable? Shouldn't I hold back a little? Keep the mystery alive? My friend, you are the mystery, and that moment when you let yourself rest, not just physically, but emotionally, you're doing something most people are too afraid to do. You're allowing yourself to be held. Let me tell you something loud and clear. There is nothing weak about softness. There is nothing needy about allowing comfort. And in fact, it's the rarest form of strength to let someone witness your peace. We live in a world that rewards noise, that glorifies control, that teaches women to stay sharp, stay guarded, stay distant, like softness is some kind of liability. But when you lay your head on his chest, you're rewriting that lie. You're saying, I don't need to perform for safety, I choose closeness anyway. And he feels that not in his mind, in his body, in the stillness between his thoughts, in the quiet way he exhales and wraps his arm around you just a little tighter. Because for him, that moment isn't just sweet, it's anchoring. You've just given him something most people never do. A glimpse of peace that doesn't demand, doesn't test, doesn't chase, and it just is. So next time you wonder if those little quiet things matter, if that lean into his chest, that sigh against his skin, that small, quiet moment of trust will be remembered. Yes, it will, because men forget words, but they remember how safety felt. And you, my friend, you are the safest place he's known in a long time. So don't pull back, don't apologize for it. Don't second guess the softness that comes naturally to you. Because in a world full of loud, disconnected energy, you being present is revolutionary. You being at peace, that's your magnetism. Number 2, when you run your fingers through his hair, sometimes the smallest touch is the loudest way to say, you matter to me. My friends, this one hits different, because when you run your fingers through his hair, you're not just playing, you're not just being cute. You're grounding him. You're reminding him that in a world that demands he always be composed, strong, and sharp-edged, he can be soft around you. And that changes everything. It's not just a touch, it's a transmission. Imagine this. He's sitting next to you, maybe talking about something that happened at work. He's trying to play it cool, but his jaw's a little tight. His shoulders are holding the day. And without a word, you lift your hand, slide it gently through his hair, fingertips slow, no rush, no noise. And just like that, you drop him into the present. That one simple motion, it rewires the moment, because you're not fixing him, you're feeling him. You're saying, I'm not here to critique or question, I'm just here. And presence, real feminine presence, is rare. That's why it hits so hard. Now I know some part of you might wonder, is that too much? Will he even notice? Oh, he'll notice, not with words, not always with reaction, but with his body. His breath will slow, his voice will soften. He might even close his eyes for just a second. That's not performance, that's surrender. Because in that small act, those fingers in his hair, you just reminded him, I've got you. Number 3, when you show affection without thinking. The most unforgettable kind of love isn't performed, it's effortless. It lives in the spaces between the words. That's the kind of affection we're talking about, my friends. The kind that shows up before you even realize it's there. No script, no timing, no angle, just pure energy that leaks out of you without warning, because it's real. You didn't plan to kiss his shoulder while passing behind him. You didn't think twice before wrapping your arm around him mid-movie. You weren't trying to get a reaction or prove a point. You were just being you. And that right there is why it hits so deeply. Because affection, when it's unconscious, when it's woven into your natural way of moving around someone you love, that's when it becomes unforgettable. That's when he feels it in his nervous system, not just in his mind. Think of it like sunlight slipping through blinds. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't shout. It just shows up. Quiet, warm, beautiful. You don't need to announce it. Your presence says enough. Now maybe there's a little voice in your head asking, does he even notice those little things? Should I be doing more? Does any of it even matter? Let me answer that for you. Yes, he notices. Yes, it matters. Because what you're offering isn't just affection, it's safety, it's familiarity, it's being loved in the way most men rarely get loved, without having to earn it. You're not trying to win him. You're just letting love live through you, and that's magnetic. Number 4, when you wear his hoodie like it's your armor. Sometimes love doesn't knock, it just walks in wearing your favorite hoodie. My friends, this one might seem small, but trust me, it lands deep. Because when you slip into his hoodie, you're not just borrowing a piece of fabric, you're stepping into a memory. You're wrapping yourself in something that smells like him, feels like him, belongs to him, and yet, when you wear it, something shifts, something sacred gets exchanged. He sees you in it, and everything slows down for a second. You're standing in the kitchen, sleeves falling past your hands, hair a little messy, zero effort, and yet, in that moment, you've never looked more magnetic. Because it's not about style, it's not about seduction, it's about symbolism. That hoodie, to him, it's a silent message. And it says, I feel safe here. It says, I belong close. It says, your world has room for me, and I'm not afraid to take up space in it. And that strikes something primal in a man, not possessive, not controlling, primal, like a part of him exhales and says, she's with me. Not in a bragging way, but in a bonding way. Now, maybe there's a part of you that thinks, isn't that too intimate? Too vulnerable? Too early? But let me tell you something real. Men don't remember the night you looked the most done up. They remember the morning you walked out wearing their hoodie, hair tied up, smiling like the world was finally soft again. Because that version of you, unfiltered, unforced, unapologetically in your ease. She's unforgettable. So the next time you throw that hoodie on, don't underestimate what you just did. You didn't just borrow a layer, you became a memory. Number 5, when you massage his neck after a long day. Touch is the language the soul speaks when words are too tired to try. And after a long day, when his voice is low, his energy's spent, and the world's been pulling at him from every angle, that's when your hands say what nothing else can. When you reach up and start rubbing the back of his neck, you're not just touching muscle. You're not just being sweet. You're doing something far more powerful than most people realize. You're removing weight, because the stress he carries, it's not always visible. It sits in his shoulders, in his jaw, behind his eyes. He's been holding it all day, not because he wants to, but because he's expected to. And when you lay your hands on him, slow and intentional, you remind him of something he didn't even know he needed to remember. He doesn't have to carry everything alone. That's why he leans into you a little more, why his breath gets deeper, why he closes his eyes without thinking. Because your hands don't just release tension, they restore trust. Not just trust in you, trust in himself, that it's okay to exhale, that not every moment has to be earned or fought for. And here's what makes it unforgettable. It's not about technique. It's not whether you know pressure points or strokes. It's the intention behind your touch. It's the energy you carry in your fingertips. It's you saying, you've done enough today, come home now. And let's be honest, my friends, there's a difference between being touched and being felt. When you touch him like that, he doesn't just feel good. He feels seen, he feels chosen, he feels cared for in a way no achievement ever gave him. And that's what keeps him coming back. Not for the massage, for you. Number 6, when you're in pajamas, no makeup, hair a mess, when still radiating. Real beauty isn't revealed under lights, it's revealed in comfort. And my friends, let's be honest, there's something sacred about the moment he catches you in your rawest form, hair messy, no makeup, soft pajamas that hug you like home, and he still can't take his eyes off you. That's not just attraction, that's recognition. Because in a world obsessed with perfection, he's not drawn to the version of you that's most polished. He's pulled to the version that's most at ease. You didn't plan to look radiant. You weren't trying to turn him on. You were just being real. And in that realness, you became irresistible. And imagine this. You walk into the room, cozy socks on, wrapped in a blanket, face untouched by foundation, your vibe quiet and content. You're not performing, you're just present. And he looks at you, not with judgment, not with critique, but with that slow, quiet smile that says, damn, that's my piece. Because what most women don't realize is this: comfort isn't the absence of beauty. Comfort reveals beauty. It says, I don't need to chase attention. I already carry presence. And that's what a grounded man feels. Not just the softness of your skin, but the stillness in your spirit. He senses it the way we feel heat from a fire. Not loud, not flashy, but consistently warm. So when you catch yourself thinking, should I have dressed up more? Does he still find me attractive like this? Let me tell you something. The real you, the quiet, relaxed, comfortable you, is the one that stays in his mind when he's out in the world. Because that's the version of you he wants to come home to. Number 7, when you tease him lightly. Flirting isn't about being perfect, it's about being present in the moment with just enough spark to make it unforgettable. And that, my friends, is exactly what happens when you tease him. Just a little. Not cruel, not cutting, just light, effortless, real. A quick jab, a side smile, a raised eyebrow that says, I see you, I get you, and I'm not afraid to play with you a little. Because that kind of teasing, it's not mockery, it's music, and it's the rhythm of connection. A back and forth that says, you're safe here, we can laugh here. We don't always have to be serious to be real. Imagine this. He's telling you some story, being way too confident about how great his cooking is or how fast he could have been in high school track, and you lean in with that soft grin and say, oh, really? I'm sure the Olympic scouts are still devastated they missed you. Then you bump him lightly with your shoulder and sip your drink like you just dropped the mic. That moment, it's not about challenging him. It's about inviting him into play. And he loves it because that tiny moment makes him feel something most men don't get enough of. Shared joy, emotional safety, play without pressure. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not bending or shrinking to keep the peace. You're engaged. You're alive. And that teasing energy, that subtle flirt, that's chemistry that doesn't expire. Now, maybe there's a voice in your head saying, isn't that too bold? Will he take it the wrong way? Let me be clear. If you're coming from love, from fun, from genuine connection, he won't take it the wrong way. He'll take it right to heart because you just told him without saying it directly, I'm comfortable here. I'm with you, not just next to you. And that, my friends, is how attraction deepens, not just with heat, but with humor. Number 8, when you touch his arm while talking. A single touch can say more than 100 perfectly crafted words ever could. My friends, this one's subtle, almost invisible, but when it lands hard. Because that moment you reach out mid-conversation, just a small graze on his forearm, a fingertip on his bicep, a brief connection as your laughter peaks or your eyes lock. You're not just adding emphasis, you're making him feel chosen in the middle of a sentence, in the middle of the noise, in the middle of the world spinning around him. You reached for him, and that does something to a man. You see, most people are used to being talked at, not touched through. So when you break that invisible wall with something as simple as a casual brush of your hand, it catches him off guard in the most unforgettable way. It's not about seduction, it's about signal. Imagine this, you're mid-story, you say, no, wait, you're gonna love this part. And without thinking, your hand finds his arm for half a second. You keep talking, you keep smiling, but his mind, it stopped at that moment because your body just told him, I'm not just saying this, I'm saying it to you. Now you might think, does he really notice that? Was it even enough to register? Let me tell you something real. That 1 second of connection can echo for hours. Because touch is primal, and when it's light, innocent, unforced, it slips right past his brain and settles in his body. That's how emotional memory gets formed, and girl, you just became a memory. That touch wasn't about control, it wasn't a move, and it was presence, and presence is rare. Number 9, when you let him protect you. True strength isn't just in how you carry yourself, it's in knowing when to be carried. Let that settle in your chest for a moment, my friends, because we've been conditioned to believe that independence means doing it all, that asking for help is weakness, that softness makes you less. But here's what no one tells you. Letting him protect you doesn't shrink your power, it deepens your bond. You see, there's a difference between needing someone and allowing someone in. And when you lean into him, not because you can't stand on your own, but because you trust him enough to share the weight, you don't make him feel used. You make him feel essential. That moment you rest your hand on his chest after a hard day. That time you say, I just need to be held right now. The small moment where you stop carrying the world for just a second and let him carry you, that's not weakness, and that's intimacy. And for a man who's been taught to suppress, to solve, to stay stoic, your vulnerability is medicine. Now, maybe there's a voice inside saying, but I don't want to come off like I can't handle life. I don't want to be a burden. Let me make it plain. You're not a burden, you're the anchor. And letting someone in, just enough to see the soft side of you, isn't surrendering your strength, it's proving it. Because it takes far more courage to say, I trust you with my softness, than it does to pretend like nothing ever touches you. And when you allow that moment, when you look at him not like he's a fix, but like he's a place to land, he doesn't feel used. He feels honored, not because he saved you, but because you let him show up. Number 10, when you get slightly mad in the cutest way. The storm doesn't always destroy. It can be the most beautiful thing he's ever seen when it's wrapped in love. My friends, let's talk about that moment, and not when you're yelling, not when it's chaos, but when you get just a little mad in that way, the way where your lips purse, your brow tightens, maybe you cross your arms and tilt your head with that look that says, "I'm not even playing with you right now." And he's looking at you, trying not to laugh, not because he's mocking you, but because in that little flicker of fire, he sees another side of you and he loves it. You see, it's not rage, it's realness, it's passion dressed up in tiny storms, and a man who's paying attention and he's not backing away, he's falling deeper because you're not cold, you're not passive, you care. Enough to get frustrated, enough to show emotion, enough to break your cool just for a second, and that right there tells him something powerful. I'm invested. I feel this. You matter enough to move me. It's the pout after he forgot to text you back. It's the little stomp when he changes the playlist mid-song. It's the really with the narrowed eyes when he finishes the last bite of your fries. It's not drama. It's intimacy with edges. And let's be honest, he's not rolling his eyes. He's trying not to smile because that heat you bring, that spark in your voice, that heartbeat in your reactions, it's not chaos, it's color. It means he's with someone who's alive. And the wild part, even when you're mad, you're magnetic. Because even your fire feels safe, even your storms feel like poetry. Number 11, when you bite your lip without realizing. Seduction isn't always spoken. Sometimes it lives in a pause, in a breath, in the quiet before the storm. My friends, this one slips out of you without intention, and that's why it's so powerful. You're not performing, you're not planning, you're deep in thought, focused, maybe even a little unsure. And then it happens. You bite your lip, not to be sexy, not to send a signal, just because it's instinct. And across from you, something shifts. Because to him, that 1 second, the gentle press of your teeth, the stillness in your eyes, the softness in your face, it's a freeze frame moment. Everything slows down, the noise fades, and all he sees is you, and not the version of you trying to be seen, but the version of you that's so in your own world, it draws him into it. That lip bite, it's not just a gesture, it's a whisper, a flicker of vulnerability wrapped in confidence, a contradiction that makes him look again. He doesn't know why it moves him. He just knows it does. Because attraction isn't always about what's loud. It's about what's uncontrolled. The moment you're not thinking about how you look is usually the moment you look the most unforgettable. And maybe you've never thought twice about it. Maybe you've done it 1,000 times in 1,000 rooms. But when you're in front of him, when the energy is right, when the silence is just thick enough, that simple, unintentional bite becomes a pulse in his memory. And what's wild, you'll forget you did it. He never will. Because it wasn't about technique. It was about timing. It wasn't a performance. It was presence. So let's bring it all home, my friends. The truth is, it was never about trying harder. It was always about being more you. The quiet glances, the playful jabs, the hoodie moments, the pauses. You thought they were small, but to him, they were unforgettable. So if something in you stirred today, if you saw yourself in these words, like this video, subscribe and share it with another woman who needs this reminder, because your softness isn't random, it's power. Your presence isn't background, it's the moment. And girl, he feels it. I'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay glowing.